And here's what you're waking up to. Over at COP28, the climate nonsense, associated climate loons and vegan maniacs are crying into their quinoa because it turns out that in the UAE, fossil fuels are quite popular. I mean, who knew, right? And that one of the world's leading oil barons not only has used COP28 in order to flog oil and gas contracts to about 15 different countries around the world, but he's been not that keen to put taking out fossil fuels altogether on the agenda. So it wasn't in the draft wording. And all of the climate loons were going around wringing their little handkerchiefs, crying about the fact that the world's largest oil baron was still quite keen on oil. I know, it is the whole turkeys at Christmas thing, right? I presume that for COP29, they're going to be looking for someone who is a major vegan and just sits in the dock, sucking on the arse end of a locust, and has never had any fun or sex in their lives. I mean, presumably that's what we need to see at COP29, because COP28 hasn't worked out so well for them. In other news, Heather Mills, the much hated, I'm not sure quite why, ex-wife of Paul McCartney. Maybe she was hated because she wasn't Linda. I think that was right. She had a company called V-Bites. It employed 114 people, and it essentially did that really bizarre thing where instead of eating sausages, you make things that look like sausages that aren't sausages, but are actually made up from like chemicals and cardboard that's mostly grown in a lab. And that's supposed to be better for you than just eating a cow that ate a bit of grass and sat around in the sunshine quite a lot. Anyway, that was what her company used to offer. It's now gone into administration. So not only are the vegans outraged about what's going on at COP28 and now outraged that they've lost one of their companies, they're also kind of pissed off because ordinary Brits are making gags like she didn't have a leg to stand on, or her accountants have been stumped by what they've seen, which is clearly not funny at all. In other news, Michelle Mone has used taxpayers' money that she fraudulently acquired by setting up a sham business in order to acquire a PPE contract through the VIP lane that she had specific access to. She's used those funds to create a documentary about herself to show how innocent she is, and she's chosen to release it roundabout now. Couple of things, three things actually to think about here. Number one, the timing. Why now? Why now? And that will all become very clear very soon. But it is a curious thing to try to go to the media to clear your name before, let's just say, a case was going to come to court and try to point the finger of blame at government. Two, you'll notice the soft focus. I'm not sure what her cameraman was doing or using. I'm assuming some Vaseline, or maybe like the old days, they used to put a pair of tights in front of the camera. Maybe it was that. But the soft focus is probably one of the most extreme things I've seen about the video, and there's quite a lot in there. And the other thing is she uses investigator, Mark Williams Thomas, investigator, and then plays some dramatic music, boom, and then get some stock footage of cities, boom, and then get some drone footage of Mark Williams Thomas stood on the coastline, investigator. The truth is, Mark Williams Thomas will do anything for cash. I mean, he is basically that hooker that would blow, dodgy Sammy round the back of the pub, who definitely has something wrong with his todger, but never mind, a fiver's a fiver, isn't it? So there's something glorious about this whole affair. And then finally, there's this bizarre thing where a large number of the British population are still taking the COVID inquiry seriously. Like, many people imagine the COVID inquiry is a COVID inquiry. People think it's an inquiry set up to inquire about what went on at COVID. They imagine that Boris Johnson, who did his acting part brilliantly, I would say, and Rishi Sunak, they're imagining these guys are actually under pressure. And they're lapping up the kind of posh lawyer guy, the KC, who's like doing things like, and in this WhatsApp message in 2007, you said the word cunt. And they love it. And the KC knows exactly what he's doing. He's doing that for clicks and views because he knows when viewing spikes are in. The leftist and the Guardian types are loving it because they think the politicians are actually under pressure. And they're missing the whole thing. It's not a COVID inquiry. This is not bottom up. No one's there to find out anything. It's just a top-down, strategic, PSYOP/intelligence-led process to take all governments into signing up to the World Health Organization pandemic treaty, which needs everybody in by May 2024 when they next meet. So I appreciate many people will be like, well, that's a conspiracy theory. And that's fine, because I'll wear that badge all day long, because currently it seems like conspiracy theorists were right all along. But mark my words, these COVID inquiries, which are going on in lots of different countries all at the same time, according to the COVID playbook, is designed, and it's the vehicle that takes us to signing up to the WHO pandemic treaty in 2024, because it has been found that governments were ill prepared to deal with a pandemic. And so, the solution is the World Health Organization. Like I say, you can come back to me in May 2024 when it's proven that I am quite correct. But being right is not such a pleasurable thing these days. Anyway, my darlings, that's a short roundup here in Batshit Bonkers Britain. Go to it, good people. Go be as free as it's possible for you to be.